devastation that has caused in the entire Dharali region. We will shift our focus from the rescue operations a little bit to why this happened, why this pattern is really not changing over the years. It does take us back to the 2013 Kedarnath flash floods as well. Is it just limited to a cloudburst problem phenomena, or there's a lot more to that? Certain ecological factors that need to be blamed, human-induced factors that need to be blamed, which include deforestation, increasing urbanization, the kind of construction activities that have been ongoing. We'll talk about all of that with our experts, but that's not all.
So on the other side, our second story of the day, my name is Toya Singh. Our next story of the day, because today is National Handlooms Day, we thought we should do something very special. So Kritsween and I travelled to a museum right here in Delhi, where there's a very, very special exhibition that is all about reimagining indigenous textiles and fashions in creative new ways. Join us as we take you through that incredible exhibition and teach you about Indian textile and Indian crafts. Beyond Banarasi, beyond Patola, beyond the ones we're familiar with, we take you into the unfamiliar and the incredibly cool. Right now though, let's take a look first at all of the headlines.
Cloudbursts in Himalayas getting stronger and faster. Why is Uttarakhand seeing more of these deadly downpours? We will talk about this changing Himalayan rain pattern, climate pressure on India's highest peaks, and the kind of devastation it's leaving behind, with our experts joining us this morning. India's contemporary indigenous fashion will be spoken of on the Breakfast Club. It's a special report we get to you from the National Crafts Museum. We have shifted our spotlight this National Handlooms Day on what India makes of this indigenous craft and how it's being reimagined in ways more than one. Mini archives of memory and making. A special report in just a bit.
Hero Vida VX2 review, electric mobility put to the test, performance and range, pros and cons. Overdrive review brings you the verdict.
All right, images from Uttarkashi are hard to ignore. Homes torn apart, roads swallowed by landslides, rescue teams battling time and terrain. Many people believe that this is just another monsoon tragedy, but it really is more than that. Cloudbursts, sudden intense downpour over tiny portions, small portions of land are hitting the Himalayas with growing frequency.
Now, scientists say climate change is playing a very, very clear role. Warmer air holds more moisture, and when that moisture meets the steep slopes of an already fragile mountain system, the result is devastation. But is it just climate change? Uttarakhand has seen a spike in tourism, expanding road networks. It is also now among the most vulnerable zones in the Indian Himalayas. This morning on the Breakfast Club, we wanted to bring you the whole story. Climate change is one aspect of this, but what are the other aspects? We take a look with our guests.
So we'll find out why these extreme rain events are becoming more frequent in Himalayas. We will go across to our News 18 correspondent Shrishti in just a bit. But we first start with Dr. KJ Ramesh, former Director General of the IMD. A very good morning to you, sir. Thank you for taking out time. Sir, first up, let's begin with what's being debated heavily, and especially experts who are really trying to fight out what led to this situation in Dharali and the adjoining areas. Do you really think, of what you've read, of your experience, whether or not this was a cloudburst? Many experts have spoken of how the area nearby, close to Dharali, really didn't receive that kind of heavy rainfall in the hours preceding the calamity.
Yeah, it is not triggered by heavy rainfall type of cloudburst, but antecedently that upstream of Dharali, what you call Gangotri area, catchment area was receiving rainfall, antecedent rainfall continuously for last 5 weeks. Not only Himalaya, the Uttarakhand Himalayas, even Himachal Pradesh Himalayas were also receiving. So similar incidents, we are also getting reports over Himachal as well. Though coming back to this particular thing, antecedent rainfall makes
What is antecedent rainfall, Doctor?
antecedent means rainfall happening past 3-4 weeks on the same region. Whole of Himalayas are receiving rainfall. In India also, North India was receiving rainfall, West India is receiving rainfall, Rajasthan and other places. Above Madhya Pradesh were receiving very heavy rainfall quantums. So the antecedent rainfall makes the soil slowly absorb the water, and then there is a point at which water cannot be held by the soil. So that's how the landslide, mudslide.
So, Doctor,
So,
just if it's okay for me to clarify with you, you've already
Yes.
said that it was not, and Shrishti, we'll come to you after we go to the doctor because we do want to ask him some more questions. But Doctor, if we could just ask you, tell us, how is a cloudburst defined? How much rainwater is considered a cloudburst and how much rainwater fell in this region? Just to give us an idea of how far away from that definition or how close it was.
See, cloudburst by definition is 10 centimeters of rainfall in 1 hour. 10 centimeters in 1 hour. So that is the classical definition of cloudburst. So Bombay has 2005 received like that.
Yes.
Santa Cruz particularly. And several epochs of that kind of heavy rainfall is there. But recent data suggests that even over the Himalayas, Sikkim, particularly Himachal and Uttarakhand, even 5 centimeter rainfall in 1 hour can create flash floods. So that kind of fragility has developed over the Himalayas. You can imagine. Classical definition is 10 centimeter per hour, even 5 centimeter 1 hour per hour in a valleys of Himalayas, vulnerable valleys of Himalayas. We have already destabilized the slopes, ecosystem imbalance is there, all that is there. So that has made even 5 centimeter per hour rainfall can create flash floods.
Okay, but not technically a cloudburst.
Yeah, but speaking of the cloudburst, since it's being spoken of, it's a phenomena that really has hurt the Himalayas. Not just the Himalayas, we've seen so much devastation take place over the years because of this entire phenomena. Sir, if you can help us understand some of these technical terms that are being used. For instance, the orographic lift, when the moist air suddenly cools, when it moves up, suddenly cools, and that really causes this kind of rapid rainfall in a limited area. What is this concept? How does this really happen?
Suppose, imagine Himalayas are, India faces Himalayas from the south. If you are in Dehradun, for example, or Shahrampur, plains of UP, or Delhi, for example, you can take. So from Delhi, you face Himalayas to the north. So if wind blows from south or from the east to the foothills of the Himalayas, and then the lifting of that air by the orography that along the mountain slope, when warm air gets lifted, so it carries, it is a warm air. As you go up, it encounters surrounding air is colder than that the lifted air. So automatically that lifted air, when surrounded by a colder environment, condensation takes place.
Okay.
Okay. Condensation takes place if the lifting continues further. So cloud size increases and more water, more moisture pumped up will generate more liquid, more water vapor and crystals, and then the liquid water in the cloud. So that lifting process makes the accelerated growth of the cloud and associated cloud liquid water. Day in, day out, this happens over the west coast of India. That's how we receive highest amounts of rainfall in the west coast of India. Hills, Western Ghats are there. So along the Western Ghats, heaviest amount of rainfall is received year after year during the monsoon season.
One would wonder, sir, why is it that, when cloud formation happens, usually it rains, and that's why you have rains taking place typically over a few days. Now, this kind of a sudden cloud formation, which leads to this intense rainfall, why does that happen? Why is it that it doesn't rain over a period of days or hours and doesn't lead to a cloudburst-like situation? To very simply break it down for us.
Yeah, if it all depends on the moisture loading. Moisture means water vapor. In technical terms, we call it as measure as the nami. Nami in the atmosphere is called moisture. So moisture loading has to happen at a particular point.
Okay.
Moisture loading comes from the wind blowing from some other direction to a particular point. So when Western Ghats, if we, as I told example, monsoon comes from Arabian Sea to Western Ghats, they hit directly. That is the normal phenomena there. So, but whereas if you come to Himalayas, particularly rainfall, heavy rainfall over Uttarakhand or any other Himalayan state, Sikkim, Northeast, etc., wind from Bay of Bengal or wind from Arabian Sea has to blow towards that direction. When that happens for a couple of days, then continuous moisture loading from the ocean takes place. Wind brings the moisture. So when relatively warmer air comes at a particular point, it has to be lifted because it is surrounded by a colder water. So the convergence, we call it in our parlance, it is called as convergence. Wind coming to a point has to get lifted. It is a mass, no? Something comes together. So it has to mass balance means either it has to get dispersed or lifted up. So normally when moist cloud is there, moist atmosphere is there, moisture loading is happening through the wind patterns. So it will get lifted. As you get lifted, orography makes that lifting process in an accelerated manner. So
Okay.
cloud growth will be faster than that happens in a plain area like Madhya Pradesh or any other segment.
I see. And Doctor, if we could ask you one last question now. We want to understand, this is a question a lot of citizens are asking. How much information historically was there to allow the IMD and coincidentally also government organizations to predict that this could take place? So IMD can obviously only predict weather related, so whether heavy rainfall will take place over a collection of days. That data existed. Did you already have a sense that this could take place, not this scale of disaster but this level of rainfall?
See, IMD gives 2-3 days before color coded warnings at every district.
Yeah.
So, color coded is yellow, orange, and red. Red means heavy segment and action has to be taken. Orange means preparedness for action got to be there. And yellow means yes, it is an alert for an extreme possibility, extreme weather possibilities. Whether you call it rainfall, whether you call it heat wave, whether you call it thunderstorm lightning or cyclone rainfall. See, these color-coded signages are incorporated into the warning system in consultation with the National Disaster Management Authority. So, as you move closer, that gets upgraded. Today, yellow might become tomorrow orange and then ultimately red. From beginning 2 days earlier itself, if models are showing you so much confidence, you can give orange and red alert even from early bulletins themselves. So this kind of color coded warning for Uttarkashi districts and several other districts for 5th, starting from 3rd August was there. Over and above, IMD runs something called flash flood guidance system. So this flash flood guidance system assesses the flash flood threat and the flash flood potential at each 40 kilometer square polygons covering the whole country, taking the hourly rainfall predictions and all the land surface processes, including the slope of the terrain, whatever representation is possible. So that is taken, and this kind of flash flood guidance based flash flood threat and flash flood risk, both were communicated on starting from 3rd and 4th for several pockets of Uttarkashi region. So these were the kind of work IMD is responsible. Along with this flash flood information is bundled into the Central Water Commission's flood forecast bulletin on daily basis during the monsoon. So whatever flash flood threat is assessed, that goes as a part of the Central Water Commission's flood forecasting bulletin as well. So this goes as a designated mechanism, goes to DMA.
Because Dr. Ramesh, that's the first thing that people ask. Could this have not been predicted? Could a stricter warning have not come in for people to really save their lives? That's the one thing that's being asked. Dr. Ramesh, thank you so much for really taking us through all those technical terms, and we will surely reconnect
But
with you.
about that one particular point I want to find out. So we have to identify and tell people wherever they are living, whether it is a floodplain or river bed or encroached area surrounding the river basin, river channel or so, we should tell them at what risk their habitation is. Once you inform that, that is possible. Vulnerability risk assessment has to happen at the smallest scale possible, at a village scale.
Yeah.
Once that risk, vulnerability, and exposure is conveyed associated with risk for the habitations living in, then we should have something called safe evacuation procedure for each of the village. There is a siren system. If bulletin is not issued, siren system is operational in Uttarakhand and many of the northeastern states. Once siren blows, like earthquake comes, tsunami siren comes, people go to higher places to save their lives. This kind of alert system linked to evacuation route with signages, doing exercises for this, drills for this, can make the risk manageable.
Clearly, lots more needs to be done.
Yeah, and Dr. Ramesh, thank you, because what you're pointing to is you're saying the warnings were out there, but there's more need for on-the-ground changes to take place. Doctor, if we can ask you to stay with us, let's go over to our colleague, News 18 correspondent Shrishti. She joins us right now. Shrishti, in the last few days, we've seen a number of leading environmentalists say that the aspect of this that we're not talking about is all of the developments that have been taking place, the building of highways that have led to this entire region turning ecologically unstable. How large a factor is that?
Good morning, Toya and Kritsween and Dr. Ramesh. So, like he said, I'll begin with that same point that we need that vulnerability assessment in these regions, especially the fragile Himalayan landscape, which is so prone to disasters. Now, the scientists over the years have been warning that this area is really prone to natural hazards, which have been intensified by climate change. They have increased in frequency as well as intensity. But what has happened over the last many years is that we have ignored these warning signs. We have carried on with this reckless construction, which is unsustainable, especially near the catchment areas of these rivers and streams. Now, I'd like to point out to the 2013 Kedarnath disaster. Now, even if we go there today, the human settlements have come up exactly in the same areas which were hit by the disaster. And especially in the recent disaster as well in Dharali village, there are so many settlements, as we can see, near the very close to the catchment in the Kheer Ganga, where the disaster especially hit. So people are building houses, people are building hotels, and this all is being supported by a booming tourism industry. And we have the data that over the last 10 years, roughly about 3,000 kilometers of national highways have come up in Uttarakhand alone, which is such a fragile ecosystem. So what we need to do is do sustainable planning. Of course, development is essential, but it cannot come at the cost of these hundreds of lives that we lose to natural disasters every year, especially states like Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and as well as the northeastern states where which are very prone to landslides, flash floods, and cloudbursts, which have been which have increased in intensity due to climate change, the drivers of which were very accurately just explained by Dr. KJ Ramesh.
Shrishti, I also want to touch upon what's being spoken of in connection to the 2013 Kedarnath disaster. And this is one study that I want to quote around the Kedarnath floods. The study found that more than half of the rainfall was likely linked to increase in greenhouse gases and aerosol particles in the atmosphere. Many experts in this case have also pointed to a glacial lake burst. Tell us a little bit about this phenomenon and what experts are suggesting in correlation to both these disasters.
Right. See, the Himalayan landscape, of course, these rising temperatures are influencing the climate and weather across the world. But this Himalayan range is especially susceptible because what experts tell us is that the rise in maximum and minimum temperatures is much more pronounced in the Himalayas, where we have these glaciers. Now, the recent data suggests that over the years, over the last few decades, the glaciers are melting at a very rapid rate, especially the data quoted in the Parliament Parliament suggested that the glaciers in the Hindu Kush Himalayas are retreating at about 15 meters per year. So we can imagine the kind of damage that it has created. And secondly, the worrying trend is that all these glaciers are melting at very different rates. Some of them are melting faster than the others. Now, what it is leading to is formation of these glacial lakes, which is basically the accumulation of this melt water. Now, what happens is that when there is a heavy rainfall event or even a moderate rainfall in the Himalayas, these glacial lakes can breach and this sends torrents of water downstream, which is what leads to flash floods. And a glimpse of this disaster we saw in Sikkim in the year 2023 when there's a major glacial lake outburst that happened in the Himalayas. Another point of concern here is that the Himalayan regions also have permafrost. These are like these large frozen land which are created. Now what happens is because of these temperature fluctuations, this permafrost is also thawing, and that melt water also again leads to flash floods. Unlike the plains, here in Himalayas we have these flash floods. So that's why scientists in this case also are kind of investigating the possibility of a gulf happening here. But we'll get to know more that with more satellite imagery and more data collection in the next few days. So yes, all these factors combined are kind of related to this disaster, which the scientists and weather experts are currently studying.
So how long does it take, and Shrishti, we'll take this question to the doctor next. Doctor, how long is the process to investigate in a case like this where we know it isn't a cloudburst? You already told us the amount of rain required to qualify it as a cloudburst did not take place. But whether it is glacial melting that could have led to this, there are a number of other factors like ecological changes we know. But something like glacial melting, is it satellite imagery that you use to study and understand if that's what could have led to this? How does that happen?
At least apparently, as far as the information available goes, there is no nearby glacial lake, existing glacial lake, the way we have seen Chorabari Lake behind Kedarnath Valley, Kedarnath Temple. So that kind of pre-existing glacial lake is not reported so far. What could be possible is, as I said, antecedent rain takes the water inside the soil, and inside the soil water gets holded until its holding capacity, and then the slope breaks. The breaking of the slope can happen due to water pressure and as well as from the low intensity earthquakes that are invariably day in and day out are happening in Himalayas. It is a 5 Richter's that seismic hazard scale number 5, highest risk of seismic hazard. So both these activities make the slopes unstable, and whatever water is there from, it is a slope, no, upstream also water is there, downstream also water is there, water beneath the surface also slope in the kind of river we see on the surface. Similarly, subsurface rivers will be there. Yeah. They are the groundwaters. So upstream it will be a groundwater. When it comes down, it will become a surface water. So it shows up as a river for us. When before that water gradually comes into the river stream, like Dhir Ganga here, Khir Ganga here. So before that, the pressure becomes so high and tectonic activity makes it something called liquefaction. Breaking of the liquid within the slope, within the mountain happens. So that brings this much. Without liquefaction, you cannot see mud, slush and the debris coming into the water. It is not a
So there are several factors that you've highlighted. Dr. Ramesh, it's very interesting in what you said earlier as well, that some of these areas have been marked as high-risk zones. So where we can perhaps put in more effort is making sure of timely evacuations, and a lot more that can be done to prevent this kind of loss of life.
Risk should be notified to the people.
Yes.
Mock drills got to be carried out. Escape route and escape mechanism got to be communicated to the people.
Absolutely. Dr. Ramesh, we're afraid we're running out of time, but thank you so much for really breaking down this entire phenomena in its entirety for us. Thank you, Shrishti, as well, for joining us with all those details. We head into a very quick break. On the other side, we shift our focus to how we on the Breakfast Club decided to celebrate in the National Handlooms Day, we are bringing to you India's contemporary indigenous fashion, the story that's slowly but massively changing towards bringing out India's handloom. We will get you the special report in just a bit.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami has reached Uttarkashi. Do remember, he's going to be in Uttarkashi. He's going to be camping for the next 2 days to personally monitor the rescue work. He will be visiting Dharali village, where the cloudburst incident in fact took place yesterday afternoon. And the Chief Minister will be camping, like I said, for the next 2 days in Uttarkashi itself. He's also said, and I quote, all agencies are working there. The Indian Army, the NDRF, SDRF and locals all are involved in the rescue work. Around 130 people have been rescued so far. Search operations still ongoing. Some roads and bridges have also been damaged. All of that is being monitored by the Chief Minister. He's also had a conversation on the phone with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But first up, top reactions we picked up so far.
अभी जो हमारा कल धराली की आपदा आई है, उस आपदा में सभी एजेंसियां हमारी वहां पर काम कर रही है. सेना के लोग भी काम कर रहे हैं बचाव और राहत के काम में. आईटीबीपी लगी है, एनडीआरएफ, एसडीआरएफ और स्थानीय लोग, सभी लोग आगे आकर, हमारे जनप्रतिनिधि भी, सभी लोग बचाव के काम में लगे हैं. कल लगभग 130 के लगभग लोगों को रात को रेस्क्यू किया गया है और अभी लगातार खोजबीन जारी है. रास्ते में चूंकि काफ़ी ज़्यादा मौसम खराब होने के कारण से अनेक स्थानों पर मार्गों का जो संपर्क है वो कट गया है और कुछ पुल भी जो है क्षतिग्रस्त हो गए हैं. उसके कारण से वहाँ पर पहुँचना भी मुश्किल हो रहा है. लेकिन उसके बावजूद भी सभी एजेंसियाँ, सभी लोग जो वहाँ पर पहुँच गए हैं, रेस्क्यू के काम में लगे हैं. हमने राज्य के स्तर पर भी 10 डिप्टी एसपी, 3 एसपी और लगभग 160 पुलिसकर्मी भी इस काम में लगाए हैं जो राहत और बचाव के काम को करेंगे. इसी प्रकार से आपदा राहत का जो परिचालन केंद्र है देहरादून का, वो 24 घंटे काम कर रहा है, 24 घंटे समन्वय बना रहा है. वहाँ से 3 वरिष्ठ अधिकारी भी इस आपदा के लिए डिप्यूट किए गए हैं जो यहाँ पर पहले अपनी सेवा देकर गए हैं डीएम के रूप में या अन्य किसी जिम्मेदारी पर यहाँ पर रहे हैं. गृह सचिव श्री शैलेश बगोली को पूरे 24 घंटे के लिए आपदा परिचालन केंद्र का वहाँ पर समन्वय का काम उनके पास है. वो सभी से बात कर रहे हैं, सभी एजेंसियों से सभी प्रकार की आपदा प्रबंधन जो हमारा डिपार्टमेंट है वो सभी प्रकार के जो नए इक्विपमेंट्स हैं उनको उपलब्ध कराने का काम कर रहा है. सेना के हेलीकॉप्टर भी तैनात हैं. जैसे ही ये जो मौसम ठीक होता है तो वो सेना के हेलीकॉप्टरों से भी रेस्क्यू अभियान किया जाएगा. भोजन पैकेट इत्यादि बनाए गए हैं, भोजन सामग्री की कमी न हो. डॉक्टरों की टीम भी बनाई गई है. इसके साथ साथ खाद्य विभाग भी पूरी तरह से एक्टिवेट है. बिजली की जो सप्लाई है, कल पूरी तरह से वो लाइनें क्षतिग्रस्त हो गई थी. बिजली को फिर से रिस्टोर करने का काम तेजी से चल रहा है, नई केबल डालकर, क्योंकि मौसम बड़ी चुनौती वहाँ पर बना हुआ है. जल्दी ही जो है बिजली चालू हो जाएगी तो वहाँ पर जो अभी टावर काम नहीं कर पा रहा है, मोबाइल इत्यादि उस टावर से नहीं कर पा रहे. मैंने वहाँ के 3-4 ग्रामीणों से बात की है, वहाँ के जिला पंचायत सदस्य हैं, अन्य लोग हैं. उन्होंने बताया है कि वो सभी से संपर्क स्थापित करने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं. हमारा हर संभव प्रयास है कि सभी को जो है सुरक्षित निकाला जाए. एक एक जान हमारे लिए बहुत कीमती है. मेरा धराली गांव फिर से जो है, धराली नगर फिर से जो है अच्छी स्थिति में आए. सभी व्यवस्थाएं वहां पर फिर से व्यवस्थित हों, उसको हम प्रयास कर रहे हैं। मैं आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का भी धन्यवाद करता हूं। कल भी उन्होंने हर संभव मदद का, सहायता का और आज भी पूरी जानकारी ली है और उनके स्तर से लगातार सभी भारत सरकार की एजेंसियों को हमारे यहाँ के लिए हर संभव सहायता के लिए कहा गया है।
Anshul Singh joins us live with more details. Anshul, you've been travelling through the night, stranded currently because the landslide situation only continues to get worse. Tell us a little bit about your location first up and what you're seeing around you.
Well, over the last 2.5 hours, we have been forced to stay on just one location because of this situation that is emerging over here. It has been almost 2 hours since the time this debris had fallen on the ground, and that too happened right in front of our eyes. And since then, there is a constant fall of debris that is still continuing over here. Yes, the JCBs have been pressed into action, but as soon as the JCB is trying to move any of these big boulders that are on the roads, suddenly there is a fresh stash of stones that falls from these mountains yet again blocking this entire route. And this is not only the situation that has developed over here. In fact, just a few kilometers away from here at the Dharasu Bend as well, which is 1 to 2 kilometers away from this location, another landslide has happened. And then yet again, after 15 kilometers before this location, yet again another landslide has happened where the cleaning up operations are still underway. So definitely it is becoming a very, very difficult.
Well, it's National Handlooms Day, so we've decided to honor the hands that continue to craft our heritage. How exactly are we going to do that, Toya?
Well, we're at the National Crafts Museum and we thought we'd take you in to see a very, very unique exhibition that's just been put together by the curator, Shriyanshi Singh. Let's take a look.
Hi Shriyanshi, now that we're here, let's first up begin by asking you what really is the curatorial theme behind this exhibition?
Of course. So basically what we're trying to do with this exhibition here is to really trace these clothes making practices and textile practices that belong to the local culture of India, that belong to these underrepresented communities of India essentially, and how we can bring in contemporary intervention into it, how we can try and make it relevant for the future generation, and what's really the landscape of it looking like right now.
And you've also labelled it, I mean, you've called the entire exhibit a gorgeous name, Reimagining a Way Back to Us. What does that mean?
So the part when we are talking about reimagination is definitely the contemporary aspect of it that we want to highlight, that we are looking at it from a very modern lens. But when we say a way back to us is when we are trying to say that we want to allow these communities essentially to reclaim their histories, to be able to reclaim their voices and really tell them that they've always belonged with us and they're a part of us, and that we are happy to now be able to accommodate all of that within this landscape of fashion and textile.
Lovely. Let's go.
Yes.
Okay, Shriyanshi, we're here with the first big installation in front of us. I see a lot of colors.
Yes.
And colors do remind me of Ladakh. So are we seeing a lot of Ladakhi touch here? Tell us more.
So what we are looking at right now is this tall towering figure, which is really the first thing that you see when you enter the exhibition. And we have called this our metaphorical deity who's looking all over all of us. What this designer, which is Padma Saldan, has made here is this traditional Ladakhi robe, which is called Goncha. And then what we have here is like a shawl that you wear over it, which is called Logor. What this is made of is that indigenous variety of Nambu wool, which is woven exclusively by women weavers in either Phyang village or the Khardong village in Nubra Valley. And all of this wool is actually sourced from the Changtang region of Ladakh and by nomads, again, so what we see over here is a lot of motifs that you will see visible in Ladakh. For example,
I do recall spotting this in monasteries.
yes,
Yeah?
you're correct, because all of these inspirations are coming from monastery murals. They're coming from Thangka paintings. They're coming from also the architecture in Ladakh, right? What we see here, these two motifs, these are found on window panes in Ladakh. What we see here at the bottom is literally the apron that married women wear in Ladakh. So there is a lot of this in-depth sort of like visual language that we can see that is coming out from Ladakh, and this is really like a whole dedicated deity only for Ladakh.
I also was quick to spot something similar going on here and on your outfit.
Yes.
So this is also inspired from
Yes. This
a little bit of Ladakhi culture.
Yes, and this designer has designed this outfit.
And what is this?
For me, and this is actually a black-necked crane. So this is a migratory bird that you find in Ladakh, and it's also a symbol of auspiciousness. It's a symbol of prosperity. So this is a very prevalent motif that you will find in Ladakh in all garments. So I think, and also when you notice so much silk and brocade, we have to also identify that Ladakh was actually a very crucial trade port on the ancient Silk Route, right? And it was connecting Central Asia, China, and Tibet. So this all of these moments that really make Ladakh's history and really make the history of these communities are all coming together in this one large towering installation that we have
Lovely.
here.
We have more of textiles from Ladakh, so let's quickly take a look. Yeah.
What the designer here has done is really taken the mandala, which is a very important motif that you would observe in the Thangka paintings, and it symbolizes the wheel of life.
You have a lot of those slogans and
Yes.
prayers written on
And
them.
it's like a very heavy, full motif, right? And what she's really taken is just dissected it. And she's broken it into these blocks, and she's had the whole mandala come about on this like beautiful jacket. And again, this is Nambu wool, and the color is contemporary. There is pink and yellow used together and broken with like black. I think that entire intention of contemporary is really important to her thought as a designer when she's talking about Indigenous.
Lovely, looks gorgeous, and the colors are just adding to the beauty. What about this? Once again, very colorful, very gorgeous.
Because Ladakh is all about color. They're not shy of using color, which is great. And what we see here is like a traditional sulma robe, which women wear in Ladakh. This is like an interpretation of that, but using like an ode to the prayer flag colors that you see, that there's the green, the maroon, the indigo, right? And what we have here, which is a very incredible detail, is the sul gathers. It's the same detail on my dress here as well. What this detail is used to for two things, because Ladakh is a very cold climate. This is a detail that you use to close the fists, right, so that the cold air doesn't enter. It's again very practical clothing, and then also used to repair and patch clothes where need to be. So yeah, I think this is one beautiful dress, and again very contemporary.
Lovely, very contemporary. You can't tell where it's coming from, what the origin. Okay, let's move on to the next.
So, Shreyanshi, tell us, what are we looking at here?
So we are right now standing in front of the installation of Bavan Booty saris. So Bavan Booty is a craft that originates from the south central region of Bihar, particularly Nalanda. And what these motifs truly have is that they are taken from whatever is around them in nature, whatever is around there in the flora, the fauna. Also the kitchen staples like a parval or a pan ka patta. And those are then abstracted into these really geometric motifs. And that, to me, coming onto a sari, which I feel is truly the most contemporary cloth of all times, is what makes the Bavan Booty craft, which is a 400-year-old ancient craft, also sadly gone through many attempts of revival. But now we have this here because we want to be able to present what also these weaver communities in general are able to see the beauty around them that we fail to see in the ordinary things.
How many weavers are there?
So originally when this brand started their work in 2009, which is Bunkar, head by Veena Upadhyay, when they started their work, they were only able to meet 5 weavers in Nalanda who were also not making saris. Bavan Booty saris were very famous earlier, but now these guys were only making either coarse cotton bed covers or they were making thans, which is like a long yardage of textile essentially, right? They had forgotten how to weave a sari. And what these guys then went and did was to be able to give them the opportunity to, in various phases, learn how to build these saris and also complex motifs. And now we are at this point where the weavers are to a number of 300. And they are not just working
In the span
from 2009 till now 2025, and they are not weavers employed and working as employed individuals, but now they're entrepreneurs. So they have these boards outside their house which say yahan 52 booti sari milti hai, you know, and that's what you want to do with a weaver. You cannot skill a weaver. A weaver is already skilled. We can only upskill them by giving them the right framework within which they can work, and that's what the brand has been able to do.
And we have to ask, these triangles, what is the thought behind the triangles?
So in fact, I'm actually myself from Bihar, and for me, I've grown up looking at women in my house, and I have had the strongest women around me, always in a whale, right? And what these peaks wanted, what I was trying to allude to with these peaks was the strong veiled women of Bihar, which are also the weavers behind these saris, right? And that's how we wanted this installation to have these tall peaks standing and right at the entry of the installation.
Okay, Shreyanshi, some lovely textile work here. I see this beautiful, gorgeous blue garment. What's the story there? Before we talk about the animal print, I do see sea turtles, I see fishes here, so a lot of marine life that's been incorporated, but first the cloth.
So basically what this blue coat is actually a very essential piece of the exhibition, because this is a revival Habaspuri silk. Now just a quick history of Habaspuri, it has been developed, it used to be developed in the by the Kandhas. During the British colonial rule, they lost the patronage of their Maharajas, and therefore they were asked to disperse, and they couldn't carry on doing this craft anymore. But now this craft was then brought on to the Bhulia community in Chichigura in Kalahandi, who revived this. But we have some 4 looms left for Habaspuri, where we came down from 80 some 2 decades ago. So we have some 4 looms left for the Habaspuri silk, and in a very rudimentary condition. So this has been revived from that, and it's a monumental task that a beautiful coat like this could be made from a loom like that. And why we see, to answer your question about like why we see a lot of these sea turtles, we see fishes, is because of the link of sea trade from Odisha, right? So what do the weavers weave? They weave what they see around them. So they saw fishes around them, they saw turtles around them, so they put them on their clothes. They became a part of their oral traditions essentially, right? And that's what they've translated onto their clothing and textiles.
And what do we see here quickly, Shreyanshi?
Oh,
Again,
yes.
very interesting. You have a boat here, a lot of creatures, animal figures.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is in fact a kotpad coat. Okay, and kotpad is this like cotton textile similar to cotton. It's a cotton textile which is which is woven by the Mirgan men. Now with what you see here is what these men have observed again around them, right? So the huts that they live in. So we see the boat. Again, there is a boat that you would see here. You would see a hut. You would see, you know, these animals and the birds that they observed in their surroundings. We would see crabs and fishes, the things that they're catching for their food. You know, all of these really beautiful part of nature around them, that's all that they translate onto these clothing, and so beautifully abstracted, like the extra weft motif. The motif is actually coming out of the fabric, right? So I think that's what's interesting about all these practices, is truly how the nature is not just a point of inspiration, but the nature is truly sacred to them. It's respected and it's respectfully incorporated.
How open are they then, if I can ask you, how open are they to the concept of going contemporary or seeing their work in this shape and form?
So here there is that aspect of who is the collaborator with them, right? That's where you have to be a little respectful that in certain traditions, when it comes to textiles and craft, people are okay to go the contemporary route if it's done in the way that they are able to deliver. Like, for example, let's talk about Boito's philosophy, which is that form fits the fabric. So Boito is working with these communities that are making clothes for their daily lives, right? They're making saris for themselves, they're making loincloths for themselves. Now what Boito does is just asks them to spare maybe a piece or two that they can then incorporate into their designs. But they are not considering them to work as weaver communities for them, where they will be making yardages of textiles for you, and you'll be building many items out of that. So it's a very small, tight inventory, and it's made with like close collaboration where the weavers and the communities are respected for the work that they're doing, and there's no exploitative practice going there.
Lovely, lovely. So that's really the magic of Odisha. Let's move on to the next one.
So, Shriyanshi, what are we looking at here? There's a gorgeous sound. What are we looking at exactly?
So we are looking at the work of Tega Collective, and what we are working with here is the Lambani women of Karnataka. They are also referenced as Banjaras because of their nomadic, culturally nomadic and migratory, nature. So what we have here, if you look at the Lambani women, why they are adding these additional elements to their garments, right? If I can break them down for you, what we see here is a 25 paisa coin onto which ghungroos are attached, right? And the 25 paisa coin represents prosperity, but the ghungroos are actually important for them to add to their clothing so that when they are going through the jungles, the animals can be warned through this noise that, okay, stay away. The cowrie shells, which is used as a currency across many cultures in the ancient times, is also known for the prosperity aspect, right? So that's why, again, something like of a talismanic feature that they've added to the garment. When we look at the shisha, which is of course smaller here, but they add much bigger versions of the shisha onto their garments, again to just reflect the sunlight off of them. When they're going through these jungles, that can blind the predator. Any wild animals lurking around can be warned, and they can be going away from them. So that's what these little elements are in these clothing. What we have here is the sandur branch of Lambani embroidery.
And so there are many different kinds of...
There is two, and we have the sandur branch over here, and all the 14 stitches, which is, you have to also see how complex, maximalist these geometric stitches are, and how all 14 of them have been actually incorporated into this skirt and the corset here.
It's called, are you saying sandur or sindur?
Sandur.
Sandur. And what is that, the region? Give us a little more context.
So Sandur, Kushala Kala Kendra is the collaborator on this, right? So Sandur is a region in Karnataka, and we also have, and they are also responsible for getting the GI tag for this craft in 2010. So we have the masters of the craft who have contributed to this outfit. And another thing that is important to highlight is the patchwork that we see here. And why? Because it's not just, it's something that comes out of the necessity of resourcefulness, of renewal, but also the fact that nothing is ever discarded. Everything is important for them. Everything is valued. So they don't really discard their clothes like we do when it's just like a small tear. They will repair it, they will mend it, they will patch it together. And they do it in a beautiful maximalist way. They bring in so many colors, they bring in so many kinds of stitches. So I think one very important tribe, again, a tribe that was really marginalized during the colonial rule, termed as a criminal and wandering tribe in 1871, but now they're trying to reclaim their voice. And this is a cultural marker for them. Their craft is a cultural marker, an identity marker for them.
That's really, really incredible.
Okay, so we've moved on from Karnataka and we're now on to Assam, a gorgeous white dress that we see here. What's going on here, Shriyanshi?
So we are actually looking at the work of the oldest indigenous tribe in Assam, which is the Rabha community. And what we're looking at is a textural innovation with eri silk. That's what they do. Seven Weaves is the name of the brand that is behind this. And what we are looking at here is truly the first community in the entire world that has been able to use live silkworm to extract eri silk.
What do you mean? What do other communities do usually?
They kill the silkworm. But these guys are fashioned for biodiversity, which means that they're able to use live silkworms. They're able to also take care of those silkworms post silk extraction, and that's what they have been. That's why eri silk is also called the ahimsa silk, right? It's a non-violent silk, and the Rabha community is like literally the first community in the whole world who has developed this practice, and therefore, like this beautiful piece from Assam deserves mention in this exhibition.
It's so gorgeous. Can we ask you, Shreyanshi, just to move away from all of the gorgeous exhibits we've seen today and take you to the conversation around textile. I think textile, handicraft, craft of different kinds, it's become a bit of a trendy discussion in the last few months. This conversation around how we feel generally that Indian designs like the Kolhapuri chappal are not receiving the acclaim they need to receive on the global stage from global designers. When you hear that, what do you feel?
For me, what I feel is that we should first try and look a little inward when we are having this argument, because the thing is we truly haven't looked at our own craft and textile heritage ourselves. We have not really valued it, we have not really represented it ourselves, we have not taken real pride in it ourselves. We have termed it as a point of inspiration, but a very surface level inspiration. We don't really go deeper into understanding what these works are really, and whether we can closely collaborate with them with giving full credit. And we don't like to. There are only specific regions of our country that even the fashion industry likes to collaborate with and are popular. But when it comes to these very underrepresented communities, since they are not really seem to be like very glamorous contribution to fashion, and especially the regions we are talking about, they get overlooked, right? Whatever got prominence in terms of textile and craft during the colonial empires is what we now value.
Continuously.
Yeah, it's true colonial hangover, but we now need to be able to look a little deeper, because all these crafts are coming to the forefront and we are able to embrace it. Our brands and designers are looking deeper. So now is really the time where we can also be known just not for this craft wealth and textile wealth that we have, but our design knowledge that we have.
So it's time to look inward. That's beautifully put. There's a long road ahead still, but how far have we come? If I can just end on that note, how far have we come in recognizing our culture, our tradition, and really giving it back to those who've been weaving our culture literally thread by thread?
I think if I just talk about the fact that when we're looking at an exhibition like this, to really have it in the National Crafts Museum of the country, we have reached that point that we're able to allow this conversation to be present in such a large public institution. We have reached a point where the biggest vanguards for art and fashion in the country, which is India Art Fair and Fashion Design Council of India, they have believed in the idea and have come to represent it. So I think now we have reached that point where we are making significant efforts. Of course, it'll be a slower path because we have to undo a lot, we have to unlearn a lot. But we've reached that point where we're able to be thinking about opening up ourselves to these crafts and these textile heritages. And we are also appreciative of these communities. We now are looking at them from a lens of respect, which we haven't probably looked at in the past. So now I think it's really the time for them. And I'm happy to see the country actually being embraceable.
Well, this is surely worthy of a lot of appreciation, and thank you for the beautiful work.
Right,
Thank you to
Thank
both
you for
of
joining
you.
us on the Breakfast Club.
Thank you to you too.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami has reached Uttarkashi. Do remember, he's going to be in Uttarkashi. He's going to be camping for the next 2 days to personally monitor the rescue work. He will be visiting Dharali village, where the cloudburst incident in fact took place yesterday afternoon. And the Chief Minister will be camping, like I said, for the next 2 days in Uttarkashi itself. He's also said, and I quote, all agencies are working there. The Indian Army, the NDRF, SDRF and locals all are involved in the rescue work. Around 130 people have been rescued so far. Search operations still ongoing. Some roads and bridges have also been damaged. All of that is being monitored by the Chief Minister. He's also had a conversation on the phone with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But first up, top reactions we've picked up so far.
अभी जो हमारा कल घराली की आपदा आई है, उस आपदा में सभी एजेंसियां हमारी वहां पर काम कर रही है। सेना के लोग भी काम कर रहे हैं बचाव और राहत के काम में। आईटीबीपी लगी है, एनडीआरएफ, एसडीआरएफ और स्थानीय लोग, सभी लोग आगे आकर, हमारे जनप्रतिनिधि भी, सभी लोग बचाव के काम में लगे हैं। कल लगभग 130 के लगभग लोगों को रात को रेस्क्यू किया गया है और अभी लगातार खोजबीन जारी है। रास्ते में चूंकि काफ़ी ज़्यादा मौसम खराब होने के कारण से अनेक स्थानों पर मार्गों का जो संपर्क है वो कट गया है और कुछ पुल भी जो है क्षतिग्रस्त हो गए हैं। उसके कारण से वहाँ पर पहुँचना भी मुश्किल हो रहा है, लेकिन उसके बावजूद भी सभी एजेंसियाँ, सभी लोग जो वहाँ पर पहुँच गए हैं, रेस्क्यू के काम में लगे हैं। हमने राज्य के स्तर पर भी 10 डिप्टी एसपी, 3 एसपी और लगभग 160 पुलिसकर्मी भी इस काम में लगाए हैं, जो राहत और बचाव के काम को करेंगे। इसी प्रकार से आपदा राहत का जो परिचालन केंद्र है देहरादून का, वो 24 घंटे काम कर रहा है, 24 घंटे समन्वय बना रहा है। वहाँ से 3 वरिष्ठ अधिकारी भी इस आपदा के लिए डिप्यूट किए गए हैं, जो यहाँ पर पहले अपनी सेवा देकर गए हैं डीएम के रूप में या अन्य किसी जिम्मेदारी पर यहाँ पर रहे हैं। गृह सचिव श्री शैलेश बगोली को पूरे 24 घंटे के लिए आपदा परिचालन केंद्र का वहाँ पर समन्वय का काम उनके पास है। वो सभी से बात कर रहे हैं, सभी एजेंसियों से सभी प्रकार की आपदा प्रबंधन जो हमारा डिपार्टमेंट है, वो सभी प्रकार के जो नए इक्विपमेंट्स हैं उनको उपलब्ध कराने का काम कर रहा है। सेना के हेलीकॉप्टर भी तैनात हैं। जैसे ही ये जो मौसम ठीक होता है तो वो सेना के हेलीकॉप्टरों से भी रेस्क्यू अभियान किया जाएगा। भोजन पैकेट इत्यादि बनाए गए हैं, भोजन सामग्री की कमी न हो। डॉक्टरों की टीम भी बनाई गई है। इसके साथ साथ खाद्य विभाग भी पूरी तरह से एक्टिवेट है। बिजली की जो सप्लाई है, कल पूरी तरह से वो लाइनें क्षतिग्रस्त हो गई थी। बिजली को फिर से रिस्टोर करने का काम तेजी से चल रहा है, नई केबल डालकर, क्योंकि मौसम बड़ी चुनौती वहाँ पर बना हुआ है। जल्दी ही जो है बिजली चालू हो जाएगी तो वहाँ पर जो अभी टावर काम नहीं कर पा रहा है, मोबाइल इत्यादि उस टावर से नहीं कर पा रहे। मैंने वहाँ के 3-4 ग्रामीणों से बात की है, वहाँ के जिला पंचायत सदस्य हैं, अन्य लोग हैं। उन्होंने बताया है कि वो सभी से संपर्क स्थापित करने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं। हमारा हर संभव प्रयास है कि सभी को जो है सुरक्षित निकाला जाए। एक एक जान हमारे लिए बहुत कीमती है। मेरा धराली गाँव फिर
So you've seen the big arc lights here, the flashy cameras, but beyond all of this, journalism is all about hard work. So if you have it in you to make a name for yourself in this hyper-competitive industry, then let CNN News 18 be your platform.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami has reached Uttarkashi. Do remember, he's going to be in Uttarkashi. He's going to be camping for the next 2 days to personally monitor the rescue work. He will be visiting Dharali village, where the cloudburst incident in fact took place yesterday afternoon. And the Chief Minister will be camping, like I said, for the next 2 days in Uttarkashi itself. He's also said, and I quote, all agencies are working there. The Indian Army, the NDRF, SDRF and locals all are involved in the rescue work. Around 130 people have been rescued so far. Search operations still ongoing. Some roads and bridges have also been damaged. All of that is being monitored by the Chief Minister. He's also had a conversation on the phone with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But first up, top reactions we picked up so far.
अभी जो हमारा कल धराली की आपदा आई है, उस आपदा में सभी एजेंसियां हमारी वहाँ पर काम कर रही है. सेना के लोग भी काम कर रहे हैं बचाव और राहत के काम में. आईटीबीपी लगी है, एनडीआरएफ, एसडीआरएफ और स्थानीय लोग, सभी लोग आगे आकर, हमारे जनप्रतिनिधि भी सभी लोग बचाव के काम में लगे हैं. कल लगभग 130 के लगभग लोगों को रात को रेस्क्यू किया गया है और अभी लगातार खोजबीन जारी है. रास्ते में चूंकि काफ़ी ज़्यादा मौसम खराब होने के कारण से अनेक स्थानों पर मार्गों का जो संपर्क है वो कट गया है और कुछ पुल भी जो है क्षतिग्रस्त हो गए हैं. उसके कारण से वहाँ पर पहुँचना भी मुश्किल हो रहा है. लेकिन उसके बावजूद भी सभी एजेंसियाँ, सभी लोग जो वहाँ पर पहुँच गए हैं, रेस्क्यू के काम में लगे हैं. हमने राज्य के स्तर पर भी 10 डिप्टी एसपी, 3 एसपी और लगभग 160 पुलिसकर्मी भी इस काम में लगाए हैं जो राहत और बचाव के काम को करेंगे. इसी प्रकार से आपदा राहत का जो परिचालन केंद्र है देहरादून का, वो 24 घंटे काम कर रहा है, 24 घंटे समन्वय बना रहा है. वहाँ से 3 वरिष्ठ अधिकारी भी इस आपदा के लिए डिप्यूट किए गए हैं जो यहाँ पर पहले अपनी सेवा देकर गए हैं डीएम के रूप में या अन्य किसी जिम्मेदारी पर यहाँ पर रहे हैं. गृह सचिव श्री शैलेश बगोली को पूरे 24 घंटे के लिए आपदा परिचालन केंद्र का वहाँ पर समन्वय का काम उनके पास है. वो सभी से बात कर रहे हैं, सभी एजेंसियों से सभी प्रकार की आपदा प्रबंधन जो हमारा डिपार्टमेंट है वो सभी प्रकार के जो नए इक्विपमेंट्स हैं उनको उपलब्ध कराने का काम कर रहा है. सेना के हेलीकॉप्टर भी तैनात हैं. जैसे ही ये जो मौसम ठीक होता है तो वो सेना के हेलीकॉप्टरों से भी रेस्क्यू अभियान किया जाएगा. भोजन पैकेट इत्यादि बनाए गए हैं, भोजन सामग्री की कमी न हो. डॉक्टरों की टीम भी बनाई गई है. इसके साथ साथ खाद्य विभाग भी पूरी तरह से एक्टिवेट है. बिजली की जो सप्लाई है, कल पूरी तरह से वो लाइनें क्षतिग्रस्त हो गई थी. बिजली को फिर से रिस्टोर करने का काम तेजी से चल रहा है, नई केबल डालकर, क्योंकि मौसम बड़ी चुनौती वहाँ पर बना हुआ है. जल्दी ही जो है बिजली चालू हो जाएगी तो वहाँ पर जो अभी टावर काम नहीं कर पा रहा है.
Hello, you're watching the breaking news show right here on CNN News 18. My name is Toya Singh, and this morning, over the next 1 hour, we're going to walk you through all of the country's top stories this Thursday. First, very quickly, we're going to check in on all of the headlines, developments taking place across the world and in India. The US President Donald Trump imposing additional 25% tariff on India over Russian oil purchase. The total has now gone up to 50%. These additional tariffs are going to be effective in 21 days, giving India and Russia time to negotiate. Unfair, unjustified and unreasonable. That's how India has hit back at this additional set of tariffs. They've slammed the United States for targeting India. And amid Trump's additional tariffs, NSA Ajit Doval is in Russia. He's holding talks with officials. Rahul Gandhi leads the opposition charge to attack the Prime Minister over Trump's tariffs, calls it economic blackmail and urges the government to defend India's interests. And in Ireland, a heartbreaking story, a 6-year-old Indian girl hit in the private parts, punched in the face. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee lashing out after a poll body crackdown on officials. She tagged them BJP's bonded labourers. The EC has hit back. They've warned the Chief Secretary against non-compliance. And we continue to bring you coverage from Uttarakhand, where, remember, 2 days ago, a seeming cloudburst triggered flash floods. Relief and rescue operations continue in Uttarkashi. 6 are dead and over 119 are rescued. And as the new sports bill promotes gender and player equality and representation, BCCI is exempted from the RTI. All right, first up, in an escalation of trade tensions, the US has announced a fresh 25% tariff on Indian imports yesterday, linking it directly to India's continued purchase of Russian oil. This executive order, signed by President Donald Trump, claims that India is importing Russian oil directly or indirectly, and it calls the move necessary and appropriate. India isn't backing down. In a strongly worded response, the Ministry of External Affairs has condemned this decision as unfair, unjustified and unreasonable. The statement highlights many countries that continue to import Russian oil based on their national interests. It also argues that India is being unfairly signalled out, as pointed out by senior United States officials also. The MEA called the move deeply regrettable and discriminatory, asserting that New Delhi will take all necessary steps to protect its national interests. We're going to continue to bring you more context on this story. But remember, the new tariffs are set to take effect in just 21 days. And another 25% duty is looming. India is standing firm. It is defending its sovereign right to make energy decisions for itself. We're going to play out reactions for you. Then we go over to reporters to break this down for us.
Indian officials have said that there are other countries that are buying Russian oil.
It's okay.
Like China, for instance,
It's
buys
okay.
more.
Yeah.
Why are you singling India out for these additional sanctions?
It's only been 8 hours, so let's see what happens over the next.
More secondary sanctions
you're going to see a lot more.
So this is a taste of
You're
what's
going to
to
see
come.
a lot more. You're going to see so